So welcome to Recording Lecture Videos. Today we're going to talk about best practices and tools that you can use. We are thankful for you joining us today on Wednesday morning. My name is Stephanie Rodick, and I am the manager of professional learning in the Office of Distance Education and E-Learning. And then we'll just kind of go through the role. And Jason Conley, why don't you go next and introduce yourself?
As soon as I unmute myself. Yes, hi, I'm Jason Conley. I'm an instructional designer and technologist with the Office of Distance Education and E-Learning. We have a couple other colleagues here. Mr. Johns, I will pass to you.
I'm Jason Johns. I'm a video producer for the Office of Distance Education and E-Learning. And we also have Carol.
Want to introduce yourself, Carol? Carol can't introduce herself. So Carol is going to be, she's also on the media services team, and she is going to be joining us on the chat. So she's going to be helping us answer questions along the way. I'm going to be doing the beginning and ending of the session, but it's all the Jasons today doing this session. But first, let me tell you a little bit about what they're going to be talking about today. So these are our outcomes. So I guess I want to start by saying that today's session is really an overview. And it's an overview because we want you to know what are the university-supported tools available to you to capture your lectures and get them on video. So we want you to be able, by the end, to identify what are the available tools and what are some of the modality choices that you can make. And we'll get to what that means there in a moment. Secondly, we're hoping by the end of today's session that you can explain the steps that are involved in producing effective lecture videos. And so we'll split that out into recording, trimming, and sharing videos as the three main parts today. We will hopefully you can describe how to use communication strategies effectively, and that includes kind of personalizing your video lectures and making it the most effective it can be for your students. And then the way that we organized all of this is so that we're going to do this in two parts. But first, before we go through what those two parts are in this session, we want to get a sense of what your role is here at the university. So I'm going to add a poll quickly. I think I'm going to add a poll quickly. Here we go. All right. So we want to know, what teaching roles do you have here at Ohio State? And you can choose all that you can. And I'm going to give you just a little bit here to answer our questions. We've got about 3/4 of you. We're almost, we've got about 86% of you voting. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at who you are. Okay, Jason's and Carol, poor Carol, she cannot unmute herself, just like you can't unmute yourself. I can't make it so she can unmute herself. So let's look at who everyone is in the session today. So we are even here we've got folks who are teaching a course and other folks who are hosting meetings, and probably there's some overlap there. So what we are going to be talking today makes sense for both of those things. As you saw, we are recording this particular workshop. So you could be recording meetings, or it could be your class. And we see that we've got 9 of you who are supporting the teaching of others like us in this session. So welcome. Hopefully you will be able to, in addition to learning some things today, please do not hesitate to add into the chat any answers that you may have. We recognize that those folks who are supporting others in a department, you may have other tools that we are not discussing because you have other tools that your department or unit has purchased and have licenses for. So if you have other ideas, you're welcome to put those in the chat and help us along. Okay, so we'll do this one. Maybe we'll do this one as a hand raising. You can also give me a reaction, a thumbs up if you like. But if you go into your reactions or you go into the participants window, you can see you can raise your hand. So we want to know how many of you have recorded a lecture in the past? So how many of you done this already or attempted to? The Jasons have. Thank you. All right, we've got a few. Not a whole lot. All right. So we have our work cut out for us. We have a lot of folks who have not done this before. For those of you who have done this before, you are also welcome to make sure that you ask your questions in chat. Or again, if you have any suggestions or strategies that worked or did not work, you are welcome to share those as well. All right, so remember I mentioned we're going to do this in two parts. So the first is looking at the tools and the processes for capturing lecture videos. So we'll do that in the first kind of chunk of this. And then we'll follow that up with talking more about video production steps. And those are the trimming and the sharing and the recording, right? All of those pieces. We'll go into some depth on how to do that. But along the way, we'll use the chat to answer questions, for you to ask questions, and to share as a community. That's why I always ask people to share if you've got ideas or thoughts, because we're all in this together. We're all trying to figure this out, particularly during this pandemic. And then at the very end, we'll talk about some further resources, but I'll also be sharing them during the chat. So I'm going to attempt to be facilitator / chat monitor here. And I'm going to be posting links to the slides here in just a second. And I'll also be posting some resources along the way. All right. Jason Johns, why don't you kick us off here?
Cool. Well, welcome everybody. So first, for those of you who maybe are still kind of wondering what qualifies as an online lecture or what qualifies as lecture recording, we've kind of broken this up into 3 different sections to help you kind of determine what level you might be comfortable with for recording and presenting, and some of the advantages that these can confer to you as well. So that's going to be a slide presentation with audio. So that's just slides and audio, slides, audio, and then your video as well. And then there's some other multimedia components that you can incorporate. That's kind of the advanced one, and that would include things like annotating or other sorts of kind of more advanced features like that. So the good thing is PowerPoint, which is probably something that most of you are using already for recording your or for presenting your lectures in person, has a feature where you can record audio with your PowerPoint slides. And this is kind of the easiest way to just get into lecture capture. Since you've already created these slides in theory, or you're using PowerPoint itself to storyboard, really all you need is your computer and a microphone. And since most computers come with a microphone, especially if you're doing Zoom, you already have these technologies available to you. And later on, Jason Conley is going to demo each of these in turn. So up next, we have the PowerPoint with instructor video. Now, PowerPoint recently added the ability to record your webcam along with the PowerPoint. It did not have this feature, I think, even a year ago, maybe even 6 months ago. So it's a fairly new feature within PowerPoint, which is convenient. Again, there are a lot of other third-party tools that you can use with this. Zoom actually will let you record in this manner as well. And then there's another one that is a little bit more advanced, OBS, Open Broadcast Software, which I believe there's a link to a tutorial on that. You can find tutorials on that all over the place too, that allows you to record anything on your computer, even if it's more than just PowerPoint. If you have other things like an Excel sheet or something like that you want to be sharing with your students. So a student here would see, both your slide deck and your face while you're recording. And that kind of aids in memory retention as well. If they see your face, they connect it with this class, they know you, they get your personality, etc. And then the most advanced one here is a multimedia lecture presentation. That's where maybe you want to be demonstrating an equation in real time. You want to be circling and highlighting different things on your PowerPoint, just as you would in a classroom, or if you had a document camera or something of that nature. This can be extremely useful for students, especially if you have lots of complex steps that you're trying to display, or insane looking graphs like this one that's displayed here, and you want to highlight and create deeper levels of understanding for whatever it is you're trying to convey. This is kind of a higher barrier to entry. It takes a little bit more technical knowledge to be able to pull off, but for the most part, you can do this in PowerPoint itself. And also there is a whiteboard annotation process that you can use within Zoom. And again, this is something that the wonderful Jason Connolly will demonstrate here shortly. Okay, so now that you've kind of seen at least a simple breakdown of the different sorts of lecture capture or recording that is available, what kind do you think would be best for your courses? Sometimes it's best to not think of what you want to do or what you think is cool, but what might actually convey the information to your students in the best way. So thinking about like what kind of learning they might need to do. Also, it does pay to consider what sort of technical expertise you have as well. Nice. Okay. This is cool. This is a more advanced of a breakdown than I was expecting. We got about 22 out of all of you. It's probably good. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're it seems like there's a lot more comfortability with the multimedia, audio, video, and demonstrations, which is really cool. The good thing is, like, once you see kind of how these things work, the barrier to being able to do these will be a little bit less daunting, I think. So even if you're just trying to do the slide presentation with audio and you want to include your face, you can see that it's fairly easy to do that. But also, again, it's more about what your learners need than what you feel like you should be doing. Cool. All right. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jason Connolly and let him demonstrate some of these things.
Yay. Thank you, Mr. Johns. I hesitate to call him Jason because then it feels like I'm talking to myself, and that's just weird. So he is often Mr. Johns. Let me go ahead and grab, there we go. And you guys can see that. Okay, I'm assuming everything looks great. Lovely. All right, so as Mr. Johns said, we'll run through a demo of probably three of the most familiar, hopefully, tools to you that are university supported as well. So this will be, if you're going to use things, we would suggest going this route because you can get in touch with Ohio State University's IT and they can help you out. So that's great. That'll be PowerPoint, Zoom, which we're all using right now, which is kind of hard to demo when you're using Zoom. So we've just got some slides that will kind of walk you through the process. And then Mediasite, which is think of it kind of as a YouTube, but it's behind the Ohio State login. So it's a great place to store all your recordings and for sharing all your recordings if you're worried about them being available to the public. And then we'll talk over some virtual whiteboard options, of which Zoom has one. PowerPoint, you can kind of do some limited stuff, which is really neat. And that'll help you annotate your slide presentations, perhaps, or or maybe make some illustrations and demo some things as you're going along. So here are some links for resources. Again, things that we're all going to go over. But if you want to jot these down or pull up some of these windows right now as we're going, or if you need for later, there's obviously one for PowerPoint, Zoom, and Mediasite, and all of these are also available at the Teaching and Learning Resource Center. You just at osu.edu if you want to search for teaching and learning. There are all of these topics available and many, many, many more, not just strictly tool or research oriented, but also like teaching topics and best practices for things, and basically how to be a more effective educator. All of that information is available for you. Definitely worth checking out. We're not supposed to be there yet. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing right now because I need to jump over to something else, which I can't find at the moment. There it is. All right, so recording in PowerPoint, as Jason Johns was alluding to, actually got significantly more awesome recently, and I was always hesitant to recommend it, but now I think it's a lovely tool. So what I'm going to do is share PowerPoint, but not like a PowerPoint slide deck, just actually doing, putting together the slide and things. So as you can see here, I just need to drag that to where I can see it. Resume share, there we go. So this is just something that I've worked on with our team, and we'll actually be using later today. So the content doesn't matter here. Don't pay attention to that. But what we're going to do is go over how you would record and place audio onto this presentation, how you would place video onto this presentation, and then how you would share it, right? So hopefully, or eventually, you're going to have your presentation, your lecture all set to go. Your slide deck's finished. You're happy with how it looks. Great, I just need to record this lecture. Class is coming up in a couple days. Let's be honest. It's coming up at like 2 o'clock and you need to record it right now. That's fine. That's fine. I'm not here to judge. So there's 2 ways that you can get some audio onto this presentation. The first, looking at your insert tabs, right? And then over here at media, there is an insert audio tab, right? You can record audio just right onto the thing. It's very simple. You just give it a title, you press record, and now this is recording the audio. You can see how long it's running, and we're just going to give it 6 seconds there. You can play it back if you'd like. I don't know if you'd hear that, so I'm not going to do it, but I'm just going to press OK. And then you get this little audio icon on the slide itself. So as your students or your viewers are going through this presentation, if you have it set up where the audio will play automatically as they get to that page, that is a possibility. You can also have it to where they need to click or take some sort of action to start the audio. But the point here is that icon exists on the slide. So that audio is attached to that slide. It will only reside there, if that makes sense. Like it's ingrained on part of that slide. It's embedded, right? And it's obviously you can put that speaker icon anywhere you want. Notes somewhere towards the bottom or the top corners are usually ideal. And then it's easy to delete. I'm going to hit backspace and it's gone. And then you can do it all over again if you'd like. Record audio, you go through that. So that you can, if you're really interested in segmenting your lecture and just keeping your audio to that slide, about that slide, that's a good way to do it. You're going to have to export it as, well, you can export it as a movie or the presentation, I guess. And obviously it won't come over with the PDF because PDFs don't have sound. So there's that, audio, slide only. Or you can record your slideshow which kind of does everything for you. There are a number of options when you record your slideshow. If you, I'm hovering over that right now, you see the little thing pops up where you got narrations, laser pointer gestures, and then slide and animation playback. So all of that will appear when you record your show. I'm going to click on record show. And the app Zoom is using my camera. So naturally, my camera will not show up on PowerPoint. I would have to close Zoom to get my camera to show up. I can't do that, obviously. So just trust me, it would be there. But I'm going to say, okay, it starts your presentation just as it normally would. And then I'm recording this right now. I can go through my slides as I normally would. Hey, look, there's some people that should be familiar to you. Let's just view all of them here. Blah, 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 blah. And that's it. Oh, that wasn't it. I forgot to hit record on the thing. But that would be it if I was recording. Let me see if I can show you my other, or it'll show up over here maybe. Aha, yes. Nope. It did the thing where it goes to two screens on me. And anyway, sorry about that. So back to this. So we've recorded the slideshow. You can record from the current to the beginning. And that's just all you do. As I mentioned, I could show you the video portion of it because it just it pops up there for you. And you can toggle the video right in PowerPoint. You don't have to worry about any sort of third app or anything like that. It works. And as Jason Johns was saying earlier, that wasn't always the option. That wasn't the case, but it is now, and it's lovely. So you would go through your entire lecture. You'd start from the beginning or start from whatever slide you wanted and just go through as you normally would. Record everything. You get to the end. Stop. Well, first of all, press record. Make sure you press record. That was a test for everybody. Now it's ingrained that you have to remember to press record. Press record, record your lecture, press stop record, and then it'll save everything to the PowerPoint file itself. So once you've gotten that recorded, you would need to export it, right? And to do that, we would just go to File and Export. And then you've got all these options in PowerPoint where you could create the PDFs. They give you an option to animate a GIF now. And yes, it is GIF. It is not GIF. I don't care what the creator said. It's GIF. And then a video is the one that we would be concerned with. So you can export this. Obviously, the quality. Full HD is great. 720 is also very good. Standard def is standard def. It is what it is. It's very unlikely that you would need to use 4K for your lecture recordings, but if you want to, go for it. Just know the file size is going to be very large. For a lecture, I'd say 1280 by 720 is perfect. And then the option right below that, don't use recorded timings and narrations. This is where you want to pay attention, especially, and tell it to use your recorded timings and narrations. Because I forgot to hit record, that option is grayed out for me right now. However, if there was a narration there, you would tell it right there, use recorded timings and narrations. And then it will, when it exports that video, it will not be just your PowerPoint slides, but it would also be your recorded timings and narrations. And that's exactly how you do that. So we've recorded in PowerPoint. Everything is kosher. It worked out well. We have a good presentation. That's neat. We're going to tuck that in a drawer for now. Know that we've got our exported video file that includes our presentation. And now I'm going to show you how to use Zoom, which I noticed somebody asked, why do this versus record versus Zoom? And I believe Jason is, yeah, okay, good. You did provide a good answer to that question. And honestly, this is prior to PowerPoint being as good as it is right now. I absolutely would have suggested just doing it on Zoom. Start up a PowerPoint, share your presentation, and just record on Zoom. The quality is going to be better in PowerPoint directly because you're not going through that buffering state, that phase there. But that's really the biggest difference, and probably the only reason I could think to do that instead. Let me go back to our presentation. I'm going to go over some of the Zoom options for recording right now. And as we mentioned, when you're using Zoom, that makes it extremely difficult. So let me start this back up and we will continue from current. Ta-da. Okay, so we're back. CarmenZoom recording options. You have two options when you start recording using CarmenZoom, and the record button should be right on the bottom in that little toolbar. One is to record directly to your computer locally on the hard drive, or recording to the cloud. I would absolutely recommend recording to the cloud for two big reasons. First of all, it won't eat up hard drive space for you. If you have a lot of hard drive space, fine, go for it. However, the second reason, which is probably most advantageous and something I strongly encourage you all to think about as you're doing your designing your lectures, is accessibility. And then Zoom has an auto caption feature. So when you record your lecture, your video to the cloud, Zoom will automatically create and generate a transcript of that meeting for you. So as you are giving your lecture using Zoom, it's going to create that transcript for you. Now you have to go through and find it and share it, but it does exist and it does it automatically for you. And that will honestly save you hours and hours of time. So that's highly recommended. I will tell you, you've probably seen communication from the university. When we started using Zoom, there was a set, the recordings expire after X number of days, then that got extended. Now it's moving back to 120 days. I believe starting next month was the most recent I saw. So anything, I believe it's like, I want to say February 5th for some reason is sticking out. But anyway, in February, it's going back to 120 days. So any recordings that you have in the cloud on Zoom that are over 120 days at that point will go away. If you are making new recordings starting at that time, they will be available to you for 120 days. So take the next few weeks if you haven't yet, and any recordings you have on there that are over 120 days old, pull them off. I can show you how to do that quickly and easily. It's not too bad here. That is my disclaimer. Carrying on with the presentation. I would highly recommend recording to the cloud. This is where you would find your recordings. You can do so through the Zoom app on your desktop, but it's definitely, I think, you get the most robust information and links to share and things from the web portal. So you would log in at carmenzoom.osu.edu, and then your recordings tab here on the left, the one that is highlighted, this is where all your recordings end up. You can see they're separated into cloud and local recordings. Local recordings, it will just tell you, here's a recording that you made, and then here's the file path that it went to, and then you would have to go find it on your computer. So there's another reason that cloud recordings are even easier. These all show up right here for you, which is nice. You see, this is one of my colleagues' Zoom accounts where he's had a couple course meetings, and they are listed below. And you would just select the meeting that you want. This is a good example of why it's important to be descriptive when you're naming your meetings and recording your lectures. You'll notice Ross just has two that are called Ross's Zoom meeting. Like, I don't know what those are. He probably wouldn't know what those were because they're just not descriptive. So be conscious of that. It's best to convey as much information as you can in your titles and be descriptive and things. So we would click on one of those. I believe he uses the top one as an example here. Yeah. So when you select that one on the top, this is the next page you will see. You can see it was a 23-second video. There are files associated with it, one of which is speaker view and gallery view, which you should be familiar with now in Zoom, and audio only. And then that one at the bottom, you can see the audio transcript. Zoom's automated servers will transcript your recording for you. It will take time. A 23-second video will probably take like 30 minutes, depending on how busy their servers are, and it will process for you. A 23-minute lecture, give it a few hours. And anything around their busy times, which think end of semesters, beginning of semesters, Zoom servers are being overloaded with all kinds of recordings. So sometimes it will take days. Give yourself that allotted time. 3 days is probably plenty. Anything, if it's taking longer than that, reach out to either Zoom's support, or you can, again, get in touch with university support directly, and they can work with you with Zoom support if needed to generate that transcript for you. Sometimes that does happen, absolutely. So if it takes longer than 2 or 3 days and you still haven't received your transcript, go ahead and reach out. You'll also notice in the upper right corner here, there's this share icon. You can click that and get a shareable link or for embed code. And also there's that button in the middle that says copy shareable link. That's nice. You can download your recordings. And this is exactly how I would tell you, if you have recordings in Zoom and you are worried that they will be removed after 120 days, go download the files. And then you can upload them to YouTube or Mediasite, and or just have on your hard drive for posterity's sake. So you should be good to go there. Screen sharing in Zoom is pretty easy. Again, it's kind of that little green button at the bottom of your toolbar. And then this was what you get when you click on that share screen button. Going from the top to the bottom, so there is a basic or advanced tab at the top. The advanced tab is just that. It's for advanced sort of things, which include like a document camera, or you want just a portion of your screen. Those are advanced settings. I'm going to say 99.8% of the time, you're just going to be on the basic tab here, and that's plenty. And then you can share it by desktop. You can share your desktop. You can share specific windows, like a PowerPoint window or a browser window or a Finder window. And then there are whiteboard options, which, again, I highly recommend you at least play around with, right? A whiteboard option will give you just a blank white slate, and you can go to town on it. There are pens and colors and all kinds of fun stuff. Is that, I think the next slide is the one. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't. Yeah. So in advanced, you take a portion of the screen, just the audio only is an option, or content from a second camera, such as a document camera or something like that. As you're sharing your screen, this is what that thing sort of looks like. Your menu moves to the top of your, well, you can actually move it around. It defaults to the top of the screen, but you can move it around. And you have options for pausing sharing and more options here. This is called the video panel. So if it ever goes away and you need to pull it up, scroll back up to the top, find this menu, and then show the video panel. What we also want to point out here at this second arrow towards the bottom there, right above that, where there's the two check marks, which says share computer sound and optimize share for full screen video clip. If you are sharing a video, if you are on a Zoom call and you're in a meeting, and let's say you are showing a YouTube video, when you go to share your screen, let me go back. When you go to share your screen, you would select that browser window or the YouTube app or whatever. There are two checkboxes at the bottom of the screen that I would draw your attention to. One that says share computer sound and optimize screen share for video clip. If you are showing a video, go ahead and check those boxes. Otherwise, leave them unchecked. They should default to unchecked, and the only reason you should check them is if you are going to play a video. Otherwise, leave them unchecked. But optimizing screen share for video clip, the technical details are jargon, but basically it operates better so that the audio and video stay synced and that your video does not buffer as much. So as you're streaming over Zoom and you're streaming over YouTube, there would be a tendency for your computer to kind of struggle with that, and you'd get hiccups. Your video would not play cleanly. Eventually things would become unsynced, and check marking those boxes makes that better. It does not make it perfect. You may still have issues, and that's going to be a lot of issues depending on Zoom servers and your viewers' connections and your connections, but it does try to do a better job of that. So you can make sure that those are checked in that little panel thing. This is the recording view. You would have your shared screen. Here in this case, it is the browser, or I'm sorry, it's the desktop. And you know that because you can see the entire browser window, but also the row of icons at the bottom on his little start menu, and the video, which appears small and in the corner. And again, that's something you can move around. You can move it to the top or the bottom as well. And I think you can side by side it as well. Now let's talk about the whiteboard option, which again is handy and really neat on a Zoom call. You would click your share screen, brings up the options for you, and then you would select whiteboard. And look at all these neat little features you can do. Let's say you were drawing out math equations or graphing something, showing a sine curve or something like that. You can write text on it. You could draw lines. They have some stamps available. That's kind of neat. Little colors, and you can customize it and things. And then this is also neat. At the end, you can save what you've recorded on your whiteboard and share it that way, like you would otherwise a Zoom meeting. It will save that recording for you, that whiteboard recording for you. So very neat. Mess around with it. That's the best way to learn when it comes to technology like this. I promise you're not going to break anything. Get in there and just have some fun. Hopefully you've been asking questions in the chat, and as I take a quick glance over to it, I see that you have. Hopefully you're getting answers as well. But let's take a few minutes now and just, do you have specific questions about anything we've gone over so far? We've covered Zoom and PowerPoint, and now I'm going to show you Mediasite in just a moment.
Marcia and Molly both have questions at the end that we haven't answered. I haven't looked at the questions yet, but I see that they...
Oh, Molly asks, okay, does the whiteboard feature provide digitally accessible content? No, that's a good question. It would not. So you would have to, it's definitely something to consider. If you are going to use the whiteboard in your Zoom recording, you would need to, well, okay, let me start over, or not start over, but rephrase. The meeting itself will still take your narration, your audio, and create a transcript. However, if you are using images or creating images on the whiteboard, those images, obviously for a visually impaired person, they would not be able to see that. So be deliberate about when you're creating images, perhaps really do a great job of painting that picture auditorily as well. Explaining what it is you're drawing and what you're doing so that those words show up in the transcript. And then Well, that wouldn't work for a visually impaired person anyway. They can't read the transcript if you can't see the picture. Come on, Jason. But their narration would be there. Your audio description would be there describing what it is that you're doing. So that would be a very important. That's a great question, Molly. That's something that I would like to stress again. Right from the beginning, when you decide that you need to create a lecture or presentation, you should be thinking about accessibility, and not just visually or auditorily impaired, but any sort of on any spectrum of I don't want to say disability, but sort of trouble that any viewer or student could have. Something to be mindful of. Marsha's question. Can you make the video window? Wow. Can you make the video window of speaker larger while sharing your screen in Zoom? I don't believe so. You can.
I was just writing that I don't see it as a setting, so I don't think so.
You can kind of change. Like if you've got it side by side, so you've got your one screen share there, and then like the gallery on the side. There should be a bar kind of in between that you can move back and forth to that will, like Zoom should adapt the window size. So if you shrink that bar to one side or the other, like that side will get smaller while this one gets bigger, and vice versa, if that makes sense. But as you're like recording right now, I don't think that is, like you can't just click and drag the video thing to make it bigger, unfortunately.
I'll verify. I'll look it up, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
So we have about 7 more minutes for this section. Jason, do you want to? Yeah.
Yes,
so why don't we move on to Mediasite, and you can keep putting your questions in the chat as we move along.
Perfect. Let me go back to my browser here and share that. Browser. Great. Okay. So here we are. Oh, there's that OBS. All right. So what I'm going to, as I mentioned before, so Mediasite is OSU's video platform. It is behind the OSU login. So you need a credential, a name.number, and a password to access it. So to reach it, you would just type in mediasite.osu.edu, or you could go to osu.edu, search Mediasite. It would appear I have not logged in yet, so I'm going to do that now. Notice it's behind the login. I would never lie to you. And here we go. Mediasite, again, operates very much as kind of a YouTube with the Ohio State credential. These are a bunch of presentations and videos that I've had a hand in at some point. It's really nice because it resides behind that login, but you also, let me open a video here. You also get analytics on Mediasite, and I will click the view analytics, and you can see the last time somebody watched this video or clicked on it or accessed it, which was me. I haven't had a lot of people view this video. It is unfortunate, and my feelings are hurt. 2, in fact, and it was last week. And you can see those 2 viewers, however, watched about 8 minutes of my 9.5-minute presentation. So good for them. So that's actually a really neat feature of Mediasite. It's also, you can get some analytics about who's watching and when, and how much of the video they're watching. You get this little trend heat map, which can be very valuable when you're looking back on your lectures and seeing what did people struggle with, where were they watching repeatedly, what did they skip, so on and so forth. So when you log in, here's your homepage. Once you've gotten your recorded video from PowerPoint, you've recorded your video from Zoom, and you're ready to put it onto Mediasite, you would just click Add Presentation, and then you have some options. You can link to an external video, of course. I would not recommend doing that. I haven't done it before. If you have a video from Zoom or from PowerPoint, you have that video file. So you could upload a new video, which I can show you in a second, or capture video. You can also capture from Mediasite. It is a little tricky. Again, go ahead, something you can probably feel free to mess around with and see how it works for you. There are separate apps. I'm going to go ahead and click that and just, fill in some things. You'll notice I'm going to create and launch it, and then it'll tell me that the presentation is scheduled. And then here we go. It is attempting to launch the Capture application because I don't have it installed on this machine because I don't use it very often. So I would have to download a separate app and then go through using that and things like that. It is possible, and we have guides available for you. If you're interested in doing so, again, visit that Teaching and Learning Resource Center if you need help. Otherwise, it's pretty, they'll guide you through, Mediasite will guide you through what you need to make things happen. So I'm going to close that out. I'm going to delete this presentation because I've decided I'm not actually going to record in it. I already have it. I'm just going to upload a new video. And then that's as simple as just browsing through your Finder window or your what do they call it? Oh, your Windows Explorer window, and saying, hey, here's a video that I have. Let's go to this. Oh, I thought there were videos in there. I don't really have very many videos on here, as you can tell. There's a record. I don't have a recording in there either. Well, that's embarrassing. I don't have any videos to upload right now. Bummer. Let's pretend that there was a video here. I would just click it, open it, and it would upload. It would create one of these presentations. Now, sharing from Mediasite. Actually, we're going to go over sharing in detail in just a minute. So I will save that for all of that. But know that it will come up as one of these presentations here. And there are options to share. You can obviously edit the details like the title and thing. Again, there are those analytics that I told you about. And then you can edit captions, meaning add, find, and replace. Oh, that's weird. Hey, there's me. You can type out your transcripts there, so on and so forth. Again, if you do it in Zoom, you can have it done automatically there, and then it's not anything you need to worry about. I'm going to cancel and back out of that. Anything more than that becomes advanced usage in Mediasite. And we do have a Mediasite virtual studio. If you are interested in learning more and becoming just about expert level at Mediasite, look for the next time we will offer that session. I'm happy to help if you have more questions or information, but that's getting a little too into the woods for right now. So on that note, let me stop sharing my screen again. And hopefully I will look back at some questions and see if there are. I got a question. Can you upload to Mediasite directly from CarmenZoom? No, you would have to record to Zoom either in the cloud or locally, and then upload that file to Mediasite. Storage limit on Mediasite? No. The only limit is how long your recordings will stay available. And that, again, is 120 days. Okay, looks like other questions and things were answered. So let me pass it again over to Mr. Jason Johns, who's going to show you how to share these lovely lectures that you've now recorded.
Thank you, other Jason. You joke that your name has to be Jason to be in video production at Ohio State. There's 3 of us at OD and another one.
That's true. Yeah. And then there's a Justin. So if your name starts with J, we may be able to make an exception. But
all right, get this shared back. Cool. Okay, so I am going to go over sharing. That'll kind of come at the end of this next session here. First, we're going to kind of go over some of the production steps. You're going to spend almost all of your time in the pre-record section. This is how you're setting up your video, your mic, your presentation, any transitions that you're going to have, notes and whatnot. going over recording a little bit. And we're going to go into some trimming briefly. That's essentially the editing section of the video production process. But mostly, if you're recording in Zoom or PowerPoint or something like that in this manner, all you really need to do is trim the beginning and end of your video. And there's some very easy ways to do that. You don't need extra software. And then we'll go into the sharing part of it, how to embed it into Carmen and get it to where it needs to be for your students to see it. All right, so pre-recording considerations. Minimize this thing. So placement of mics and cameras. So there's kind of a theory or I guess a misleading idea that you need to have expensive equipment to do video production. You can make really great looking and sounding stuff with just your phone. Steven Soderbergh has just recorded and produced an entire movie shot only on iPhone. There's been a couple of instances of this. Really, it's more about how you're using this equipment than it is what is expensive. I know that right now, especially during COVID, NPR is having people record their audio with just their like annotation app on their phone, and then sending that file to NPR, and that's good enough for them to use for broadcast. So oftentimes, you can get away with it's less about having the best camera, the best whatever. It's more about your content. Content is always king, especially in a lecture recording. One thing you're going to want to do for sure is test before you just go ahead and record an entire lecture. You're going to want to make sure that everything sounds good. You know how your transitions are going to work between each slide. Make sure that you don't have anything too weird behind you. If you're going to be recording your face, that you have decent lighting. One easy thing to do for better lighting, which I'm only kind of doing here, is have some light that comes from like above a 45-degree angle. This will paint you in like the most flattering light. If you have something that's like down here, you're gonna look like a horror movie, and that's no good. Side can be kind of strange too, but by and large, like the higher you can get a light, the more pleasant it's going to be painting your face. Also, make sure that you are outlining or storyboarding your recording. And storyboarding, that can be mostly just creating the PowerPoint itself. That's basically what you're doing when you're creating a lecture, right? You're storyboarding what the lecture is going to be. You're creating the content that you want the students to retain, adding a simple visual cues that will allow them to retain whatever knowledge it is that you want them to have. But also, especially in this case too, the PowerPoint is what you should be saying. You can add additional notes. It's no problem to have like pen and paper right in front of you that got information about, okay, at this slide, I want to make sure that I say this thing. And looking at notes is okay as long as it's not terribly distracting. Trying to maintain eye contact can be tricky, especially if you're recording on a computer. Usually, if you're using a laptop and you're using your webcam, just looking at the PowerPoint is going to make it look mostly like you're maintaining eye contact. I've known people, and myself included, who just put like a Post-it note right above where the camera is, pointing down saying, look here, because you have to sometimes remember to do that. And so also this outline can inform you of if you're switching from just your PowerPoint recording or lecture content to something else like Excel or a Word document, Google Doc, some other media of some sort, to let yourself know, oh, hey, now's the time to switch to this thing. And Another thing that can really help you is you want to be as concise as possible. You're not going to want to record a 45-minute long lecture. You're going to want to try to break that up into manageable pieces, manageable for you and manageable for the students. So that 45-minute long lecture can become a much smaller, more concise recording. So you might break it up into each subject might be like, here's the intro, this is 2 minutes. Here's the content on background for this subject, 5 minutes. Here's nitty-gritty detail, 7 minutes, and then break up the next, like wrap up as 5 minutes or something. And this is really gonna make it easier for you to go through and record all of this because you're going in smaller segments, but it's also going to be easier for the students to remember and maintain the knowledge that you're giving them. There's a lot of research that goes into how student understanding kind of starts to wane after a certain amount of time, especially if they're just sitting there at home with all of the distractions that are provided today to sit and listen to a 45-minute long, hour and a half long recording. So being concise and really thinking about what subject and what specifically out of the subjects you're trying to convey to the students. Visually, within a PowerPoint or within any sort of additional media that you're including, you want to use white space. You don't want to have slides with too much text on them. This one, I would say, is pretty okay. It's pushing a little bit more than what you might want to do. It's sometimes nice to be switching to another slide. Any of those kinds of visual cues. One provides like a wake up call, like, hey, pay attention to this for the student, but it also makes it a little bit easier for you in your pacing as well. There are, and I wonder, we might be able to share them. There are some templates, PowerPoint templates that OSU Branding provides that this PowerPoint was based off of one of those, and those have some nice high contrast, easy to read font colors and such that make it a lot easier to maintain that white space and maintain kind of a visually consistent program. And this is, again, it's going to come up a lot. Jason kindly mentioned it a couple of times. This is going to build into accessibility as well, and trying to maintain accessible content is going to help not only any learner who necessitates these kinds of things, but also it's going to make for a more consistent and appealing and memorable product ultimately too. So some recording considerations. You're going to want to speak as though students were present. If you're just super nervous, going through just reading as fast as possible, trying to get done with the recording, that's going to come out very, very obviously in the recording. So it can help. Some tricks for this is it's a little difficult to kind of think about how to do that. Is if you can pretend that you're speaking in front of an audience, then that helps. Although if you're doing a Zoom recording and you have either a colleague or a co-teacher or some TAs or something like that that you can have in the call itself and just be presenting the material to them, that helps immensely. One of the first MOOCs that I was part of recording helped that we actually had the instructor teaching to a class of students, just volunteers, to make it look like she was actually like presenting to a classroom, and that helped her get over a lot of her nervousness. So that's something that you might be able to do if you don't have that that sort of resource. If you don't have other people that can sit and listen. Sometimes checking out different YouTube channels that you like the pacing that you enjoy from those, that can kind of inform you as to how you might want to be presenting this content. But often, times you're basically lecturing here the same way that you would in front of a class. So paying attention to the content and really getting the content across helps that a lot. And so in doing that, something you want to consider too is I have this use voice and facial expressions more than normal. That's mostly trying to get into your personality. Use the kind of instructive personality that you have cultivated or that you are cultivating to add some intrigue and also help you pace yourself while you're doing these recordings. That'll actually go a long way. It's like an old kind of theater trope that you want to be gesticulating more than you normally would, or emphasizing things more than you would. Sometimes you read things twice just because it helps with the understanding. And in that kind of rereading and emphasizing each portion of your lecture, some things you're going to want to do is explicitly state the agenda, clearly state transitions, introductions, and conclusions. And there's like an old trope for recording and lectures that's you start with telling people what you're going to tell them the thing you're telling them, tell them what you told them. So that way you have, hey, we're going to be going over this, this, and this. Here's this, this, and this. Today we learned this, this, and this. And it might seem a little repetitious, but it really adds like a nice narrative arc, essentially. A very simple narrative arc to each one of your lectures. Trimming the beginning and end is really the only editing that you're going to really have to do. There are more advanced editing that you can do later on, but if you plan your lectures to be short and concise and you allow for time between these transitions and practice, you won't have to do too much editing or re-recording. I would also say it's perfectly fine to have some errors in your lecture. If you have times where you're saying and and whatnot, that's very natural, and it's time for the students to breathe, essentially. If you're giving them very complex information and they have a lot of things that they're writing down, they're taking notes at the same time as watching this. Sometimes that you saying, let me pause and think about this. Okay, yeah, this is what I was thinking here. That's going to help them write down and memorize whatever it is that they need to do. And it also lends itself to your personality. Okay, so sharing considerations. All right, and this is where I'm going to kind of dive into a different window here to show both the trimming and the sharing. Get this pulled up and some examples ready. There we go. Okay. All right, so I am here within Carmen, and I've opened up a new page. If you don't know how to do that, the way in which you do that would be go to your modules, and you can hit the plus button here, which will give you a slew of different options for adding more content to each of your modules, if your internet is stable. There we go. Okay, so you can add an external URL, and so if you have your video on your personal YouTube channel, or if you have the link to your Zoom, then you can just click external URL, paste the URL here, name what it is, and add the item there. You can also, if you add a page, it'll look like this, and you can embed. There we go. A video from YouTube, and to get an embed code, right-click your YouTube video, copy embed code. You can paste that directly in. And it's going to default to a certain size. If you know HTML, you can center this. You can change the size. Usually it's going to play fine with whatever default size it has there. All right. And you know what, Jason Connolly, could you share the CarmenZoom, because I'm having trouble actually getting these to open up. Your mind internet is okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, there you go. Okay. So I have logged in. You know what? I'm going to close this out. We'll start from the beginning here. CarmenZoom.osu.edu will take us to, okay, first of all, there's your cloud retention period. It is February 5th. Good for me. So we'll sign in there. And as I mentioned, in your recordings tab is where you'll find your recordings. I did not take my own advice, and I have no idea what these are because they're all listed the same, right? So you can see, we'll just use this top one here at this check mark. There is a share button right there. There's a more button to delete, which I will not do, or download the files. But sharing is nice. It gives you some options here. It defaults to sharing the recording publicly. I would suggest leaving that checked. Only authenticated users can view means that the user would have to be logged into Zoom with their OSU credential just to even see the recorded video, even if it is like embedded on a Carmen page or something. It just creates more hurdles for your students to be able to view. So leaving it publicly is the suggested way to go. You can add an expiration date to the link, but I do not suggest it. Again, it just creates an unnecessary hurdle. If you want them to be able to download, completely up to you, and you can toggle that right here. Allowing viewers to see the transcript is obviously very important. That's why it defaults to on. And then you can protect it with a passcode if you want, but again, I would not suggest doing so just because it is another failure opportunity for somebody who's trying to watch. You can copy and paste your URL right there, or you can just copy the sharing information. If you copy the sharing information, it'll copy all of this text. So it's probably best to just highlight it and then, highlight it and then copy. And then we're done. So if we are going to, one of the things that Jason Johns was showing you is that you can add to your modules an external URL. So I have just I've copied that URL from CarmenZoom, and I'm just going to paste it right into, as you can see, I do a lot of little things here. We'll call this lecture 14, because why not? And then add the item. And then you can see here, this will appear in your module. I'm going to publish it so that my students can actually see it. And then it has this little link icon right there. And if I'm going to click this, and it should take me to that CarmenZoom recording. And there we go. Media cannot be loaded. Okay, well, that sounds like a different problem that I would have to investigate, but we're not going to deal with right now because it should work and it should be right there. So let me also, while I'm here, show you how you can trim the beginning and ends of your CarmenZoom. He totally won't mind that I'm using him as an example right now. So first of all, you'll notice to the right here is the transcript. This is what Zoom produces. It auto generates your transcript, which is nice, and you can search through it and change it as necessary. So if you have something that is maybe some jargon, some lingo, or you're using big complex words that the transcript doesn't really process correctly, you can change that very easily. Just highlighting it over here, click on your little edit, and then it's good to go. And then boom, save. But so we're trimming, right? So we're on this video, and then there are these little scissors at the bottom right corner, where if you hover over it, it says set playback range. That is exactly what I want to do. I'm going to click that. It will tell me that this will not affect the original recording, and that if you let people download it, they're going to download the entire recording. So keep that in mind. Got it. And then it's very simple. You just click and drag your arrows here. Let's say I didn't want him to start talking until 3 minutes in. I would just drag that to about the 3-minute mark. And then maybe there's some dead air at the tail end, and we can just drag that there. I would click save, and then voila. As you shared the link to that, it would do the playback range. But again, if you allow people to download it, it would download the entire video. So keep that in mind, please. And that is CarmenZoom. Shall I pass it back to you, Mr. Johns?
Yeah, I've got, I can show how to trim in YouTube as well.
Perfect.
Yeah. Which would be probably what you would do if you had created your recording in PowerPoint. You're going to want to upload it to your own YouTube channel and keep it as private. That means, or unlisted, I'm sorry. Keep it as unlisted. That will make it so that it's not searchable, but the URL can be embedded in Carmen and your students can see it. So let me get this shared here. This is our Ohio State Online channel. And if you're not terribly familiar with YouTube, there are a lot of tutorials. We have some on the Keep Teaching site on how to upload and manage your YouTube studio. So right now, I'm in my content, and this has all of our course introductions and some instructor bios and additional content. And if I want to edit something, like if I wanted to edit the nursing 7043 course intro, I can click on it and open it up. And to the left here, I have some information. Also, the subtitles, this is where you can add or edit your subtitles. I can get into that in a second. But the editor here will take you to something that looks a little bit similar to what the one in CarmenZoom looks like. You have your timeline, you have your playhead. These features here are pretty standard across most video editing platforms. You have your video channel and your audio channel. And if I wanted to change the in and out points, I would set it to, so if I didn't want to have it show this, or if that was dead air at the beginning, I'd set my playhead to where I wanted it to, click trim, pull that part to where that was, and then I can double check and see where I want it to end. Maybe I want it to end after this guy is laying on the bed looking at this woman with an iPad, and pull in the end. And so this grayed out area is what's getting deleted, essentially. This won't delete the intro and outro here. It'll still be on the file, but so if you wanted to, you could come back and change this later. If you're like, oh, I went too far in on the trim after I hit save, you don't lose it. You can come back in and change where it starts. But when a student goes to watch this, it will start at whatever you've created here. So that I could hit save if I wanted to, which I'm not going to, because that would make that class probably pretty unhappy. I think this course is live right now. There is also the option, and this is a little bit more advanced, to split. This is you're cutting something out of the middle. So if I hit that, that'll allow me to create a cut, and I can take out, like if I was recording on Zoom and my dog started barking, or my internet connection dropped in the middle of a webinar.
Totally hypothetical.
Something like that. If something weird like that were to happen, I could cut that part out and then save that as well. You can also preview it, and to undo that, click the undo button. So all of those changes are saved. The file itself is not altered. It just changes what's played when a student watches it. And the subtitles, right now there is some auto-generated subtitles. Because YouTube does create its own captions, you can hit edit, and this will pull up what it thinks is being said. And usually it's pretty good. It doesn't do any capitalization, I've found, and punctuation is rare, if ever existed. But it's pretty easy to go in here. You can play the file back and listen to what's being said, type it in this part. You can also, if you have a caption file, for whatever reason, you can upload it here too. If you click this assign timings, this to me is easier to edit captions because it tells you when it starts and when it ends. And also down here in this editing bar, it'll show you where the caption starts and where it ends visually, which is to me very nice because you can click and drag if you need to move things around. But then in here, you want to add your punctuations or change people's names. This is very close to what this woman's name is. You can do that very easily. You can save it, which will save any changes you've made. It won't publish them until you hit publish. So you can, if you have a longish file, or if your internet falls apart, or if your dog starts barking, or who else knows whatever's going on while you're editing these at home, you can come back and publish them later. Cool. All right. So I think that's, let me double check. I believe that's everything that I wanted to say regarding the sharing. If there's anything else that I missed, Jason, let me know. But I believe, yeah, we're done there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So he actually showed you, and both Jason showed you examples of this. So you have slides in this slide deck that you can download that give you the screenshots of it. And I also made sure in the chat to remind you to do two things. One is at the bottom of your chat window, all the way on the right, there's 3 dots. If you click on that, you'll have the option to save the chat transcript. So that way, if you want to keep track of any of those links that we shared for resources, that would be a good next step. But also, I wanted to remind you that a recording of this will be put onto our YouTube playlist after it gets trimmed and shared and captioned. all that gets done that we just talked about with post-production steps. So when you're just ready to go step by step, that way you have it. All right, there have not been any questions. So I just want to kind of make sure that we wrap up. And we talked a lot. So I want to just give you a moment, just a small moment, to just think about for yourself, and reflect and plan for the next time you're going to capture your lecture video. You don't have to answer this. You're welcome to answer this in chat, but you don't have to. This is really just for you to think about which tool will you use and why. Now that you've seen 3 different tools, which steps do you feel like you're going to need some practice or support to do? And I'd really love for you to reflect on which of all of those communication strategies that Jason had just shared, which would be challenging for you and why. So I'm going to give you a quiet moment to think about that. Okay, so to wrap up, I'm hoping you gained a lot of information. Again, we talked about this as an overview. There are the specifics that you may need to delve in deeper on, and that is why down at the bottom, our last in conclusion is that support is available to you. We have a number of ways to reach us. The best way is going to be on the next slide, where we give you the link to doing a consultation with us, and we can kind of triage you to the right person. So if you're needing some additional help, that's the place to go. But if we think about the main points here, we're hoping that you can, choose an online format that makes the most sense for you and for your students and your content. This is all contextual, right? So what one tool may be better for another. And we do have those university supported tools. There are others, but it's really best if you can use those university supported tools, because then we can actually help you. And we can help you think through which ones are going to be the best for your needs and really your comfort level, since I know we have a lot of folks who haven't done this yet. And where to get those resources. So I had posted this several times already about the Teaching and Learning Resource Center link, but that's this top one here. We gave you a couple places to go in there that will walk through some screenshots and lots of directions. But we also have on the last link here, this teaching videos one, this Keep Teaching videos, that has a number of really quick but really helpful tutorials on like how to trim. So there's other things too, about how to trim, how to share, how to record, right? So they're like 2.5 minutes long max. So those are really helpful to go through. And then if you're having problems, like let's just say you're having issues with Carmen or with CarmenZoom, that's a tool question. So that's when you're going to write to carmen@osu.edu and you're going to ask for some help. But if you're more interested in like just kind of talking through the options with someone, really thinking about what makes the most sense for your lectures, for your situation, that second link there, that consultation link would probably be a really good step to go. And that's where we would triage you to the right place. So if it's more about media, we'd end up sending you over to the Jasons, for example. So we have a couple minutes left. For those of you who don't have any other questions, who got everything answered so far, we want to thank you for joining us. We're always here to help. We really do want to support you as much as we can. So we hope this started that process, that you feel like you at least have a direction of where you want to go. And we are looking forward to talking with you in future workshops or in a consultation. For those who need some questions that we have not answered yet, we want to stick around for just a few minutes and make sure that we get to those. And I am going to allow you to unmute yourselves for those of you who are left, and make sure that maybe we should ask and see if, I haven't read Stuart's question yet, but let's see if we can answer that verbally. And then if you have any other questions, then just chime in, because I let you unmute yourself. Okay, go ahead, Jason, sorry.
Yeah, I was just typing, but now that you said that, this is far easier on my fingers. There is, in addition to YouTube Studio is actually pretty good. But beyond that, there is Adobe's kind of scaled down, simpler, user-friendly video editor called Premiere Rush. Premiere Pro is their like industry standard, professional, whatever program. But Premiere Rush is stripped down, again, kind of tries to be more user-friendly. I'm unsure about the level of university support. I know we have Adobe contracts, and it is available to staff and things, but I don't know how much they can help, how much university can help you, other than maybe getting you in touch with Adobe support. I don't know about that, but that is an option.
Yeah, if you're on a Mac, it's it's a little easier because you can just use iMovie, which is free and excellent, especially for this level of editing. PC is a little bit trickier to find stuff. There seem to be a lot out there. A lot of them will add things like watermarks to your video, which is highly annoying. Off the top of my head, there's one that works with mobile apps. VN Video Editor, I've had some good luck with too. I can link that in the chat as well. I'm not sure. I know that has a cross-platform. Oh, yeah, I believe you can get that for PC.
While Jason is finding the link for that and putting that in chat, are there other questions that anyone has?
There you go. Yeah, I think that's probably
Thanks, Jason.
After a lot of searching for free stuff on PC, that's probably the lowest entry, like skill level requirements. There is DaVinci Resolve, but it's free, but it's a very highly professional and complex video editor. That being said, with a lot of these things, there's tons of tutorials all over the place that can help you. I can link DaVinci Resolve too, but that one's, it takes a lot more skill level. It's a big learning curve.
Anything else we can help anyone with? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. So thank you for joining us, and to the Jasons for your assistance today. Thank you, everyone. Have a great Wednesday.